What's up, YouTube? Michael here. Ellie's behind the camera. We are the Bill Paying Hobbyists, using our hobbies and skill sets to keep our debt down and save up for a down payment on a house. Let's get to it. In honor of Valentine's Day this year, we're going to turn a pen using this black chrome mesa kit and this nice piece of wood with a nice streak of red right through the middle of it. The first thing we need to do is get it squared off and get it to the size for our pen tube. Then we can drill it and glue in our tube. Stay tuned till the end because we have a little surprise for you that goes along with Valentine's Day. Let's get to the bandsaw. All right, this is my pen blank jig. I have a little measuring stick here. It's actually more of a gauge than it is a measuring stick. An adjustment knob here so I can change how much extra I want my blank to be than my tube. So that allows me for a blowout and all of that. And if you notice, the end of this isn't very straight. So I'm going to cut that off first, and then I'm going to use the jig the way it's supposed to be. That gives me a nice flat surface to go off of. Now, basically, very simply, my tube goes right here. My little jig handle goes there. Then I place my blank here, and I can cut it, and it's going to be just a little bit. This one is set to about a 1/16 of an inch. Since I'm using wood, that is fine. If I was doing an acrylic or an epoxy or a resin or something of that nature, I would make it a little bit more so that I could have extra in case of a blowout, because they tend to blow out a little bit easier than the wood does. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this. And how much red am I? Oh no, you know what? I would like to have this in my pen. So I'm probably going to have to waste some of this blank. Maybe I can turn some of this into a ring or a bead. So I'm going to have to cut this off first because I want that in my pen. I got two. I still got this I could use for another pen. So there we go. And my blank is just a little bit taller than my tube. Now I need to find the center, and then we're going to drill it. To do this, it's really simple. I'm just going to use a straight edge and a pencil, and I'm going to match up my corners. That is my center. Take a little little tap. Now that gives something for my drill bit to guide through. We go to the drill press. Okay, for this particular pen kit, for this tube, it calls for a 27/64 drill bit. Get that set up, make sure it's straight. My table's not straight. There we go. I'm going to use my pen blank vise. There's my hole. Set that in there. Clamp it down. It's done. Get this set close. Take my time. All the way through. Bam. I use a 2-part epoxy. It's by JB Weld. It has about a 30-second mix time. So you mix it for 30 seconds. You have about a 5-minute working time. And it says that it's ready to go within 10 minutes to an hour. I let it sit overnight. I let it sit for 24 hours just because I want to make sure. Before we get started, there's a few scratches on here, but that's not enough for me. I like to roughen this up, rough the tube up, because I want something for the, for the epoxy to adhere to, and it just makes a better adhesion when you glue it in. So I just take a piece of 120 grit sandpaper. And the reason I go this side and then I come over and I do it this side, it kind of gives it crisscross pattern. So that helps a lot. All right. Piece of cardboard, part B, equal amounts. Doesn't matter if you do A or B first, just as long as you get equal amounts of both. Nice generous coat on the entire tube. Some people will glue the inside of the blank. They'll put all the glue, whatever they're using, to the inside of the blank. This works for me. Whatever works best for you. Some people use CA glue to glue their tubes. I prefer to use epoxy. All what works for you, and you don't have to use JB Weld. You can pick your own epoxy. Nice even coat. I don't mind if I get it on my fingers. It's what it is. I'm going to go from the side. Put it in here and get nice rotations back and forth. I'm going to leave some on here. I'm going to clean it up in about an hour. I'll come back and clean that up. I want to get it down inside those. There's a little bitty space in between the tube and the inside of that blank. And I want to make sure I have it sticking out between. That's going to cause a problem for me later. I can tell you that right now. See, that's already away from the tube. I may not be able to use this blank. That's not good. I cannot use this blank. That sucks. Let me get this off. That one is no good. Get this wiped off. Glad I caught that now. Yeah, because with that missing, that one is shown on the end as I was turning the pen. So that one is no good. We'll cut another blank, get it drilled. I have to be very careful with that one because of that right there. I have to make sure my tube is just about touching the end on the other side. So it's a very brittle wood. All right, let's get some more. Here we go. All right, all glued up, and we'll let it sit. Come back tomorrow, finish it up. All right, so this had time to dry overnight, and I'm gonna clean out the ends because I still have the excess in there. I didn't do it last night, I left it alone. And also, before I turn this is pretty brittle, so what I'm going to do is put my sanding disc on here, and I'm gonna round off these corners so that I don't get a lot of chipping, and it'll make it easier to round out. So let's get to it. So to get the glue out, I'm just gonna use a little razor knife here. Just clean it out. Some people use barrel trimmers, and a barrel trimmer will actually clean most of this out and also make this surface flush or perpendicular to the tube. I don't like to use barrel trimmers. It's just my preference. If you want to spend the money and go buy one, you're more than welcome to. There we go. It doesn't need to be real hard to do this, so I'm going to put it at about 13. Oh yeah, I don't believe I told you what this was. This is local olive wood, so it's Florida olive wood. And the red is actually fungus because it was left out in the weather and the fungus got into it and turned it red. So I almost forgot. I need to wear my mask. Now Ellie and the dogs are inside while I'm doing this pen because of the dust and everything. So I'm not going to do a lot of talking on this one. I'm going to keep my mask on while I'm turning and everything else and sanding and all of that. These are my Legacy Mesa bushings, and that's what I'm going to use for this pen. I'm going to try my rounding gouge, see how I do. So I'm going to turn this up to about 2800. Short work of that. And it's not called a rounding gouge, sorry, it's called a roughing gouge. And this is my number 2 Morris drill chuck with an off-center jig on it. And I'm going to use this to square off the ends of my blank. So I'll find the right punch. For this to slide on. This goes in here. Let it rest up against the chuck. And I have something perpendicular to square off these ends. And I'm just going to sand this down until I get to the tube, and I'll see the shiny end of the tube. We'll turn this back down to about 1300. Shiny. Oh, shiny. So now it's time to sand. Looks pretty good. I'm going to get it as flat as possible. And I'm going to start with a 180 grit. Okay, I got it sanded down with the 180 to where I want it. It's pretty flat. It's pretty good. I'm going to change the bushings out, but before I do, we're going to do our little surprise. And our surprise, because it's Valentine's Day, we're going to try and carve, not burn, not laser engrave, carve some little 1/4 inch hearts onto our blank. Cover it with wood glue and let it dry. All right, this is time to dry. So now we can start the carving part. And what I'm going to use for that is a Dremel with this little diamond cutter tip on it. And taking my time. All right, let's sand her down and see what we got. Yeah, like that one right there is not very deep at all. Let's see if I can fix that. Let's finish sanding up. I need some 320. This is a 500 grit foam pad, and I'm going the length of the tube just to make sure there's no circular lines from spinning, because sometimes that happens. Now I used a pretty good amount of pressure when I was pushing with the 1500 and the 500 because I want to make sure it's nice and smooth. Now we need to clean it because there's a lot of dust in there. That denatured alcohol. If I leave any dust in there when I put the CA glue on, it's just going to turn white. And then it's going to look really ugly. Turn my lathe down to about 590. That'll work. Just trying to fill in the hearts. And that right there is why I put the cardboard down. Drip, drip. Don't want it on the lathe. And also while you turn the lathe down when you do this, so you don't fling it everywhere. I'm going to let it sit for a minute before I sand. I'm going to have to do the 180 to smooth out any lines from my fingers and the towel, and then we'll polish. All right, looks like I got almost all the dust out of there. What is that right there? I'm going to put a nice heavy coat of medium on here first. There are many polishing mediums out there. A lot of people use a lot of different things. A lot of times I use micro mesh. Today I'm going to use Zona. It's a 6-part process from 1 to 6. You need to wash it. Pretty cool about this stuff. This and micro mesh and even your Abernet. You can put them in a sock, put them in the washer, and it gets most of the gunk and stuff off of them, and you can reuse them. Makes them last a little bit longer. Today I'm going to polish this at 1800. Shiny, shiny. And the hearts are very, very subtle. That heart is gone. That's all right. Good place for the clip. Let's polish it up. For me, I use glass wax or glass polish that I put in this honey bear. And then 1 coat of Renaissance wax. That's good. There you go. Renaissance wax. Hand carved hearts on a pen blank. I don't know. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. I think it's kind of cool. It means something. I took the time to do it. Done by hand. No lasers, no precisionness of a computer other than, me printing out the pattern. Now it's time to put it together. We'll see how it looks on the pen kit. I mean, these are just made out of pine. And one goes in the headstock, one goes in the tailstock, and we push together horizontal press. You can also use a drill press if you have one. You can put one of those in the chuck of your drill press and you can have a vertical press. Works really well. So the bigger one goes in the headstock. You can see they're a little bit bigger diameter. So the big one goes in the headstock. It goes in the tailstock. I don't know if you can see that. There's a little bit of glue right there. You don't want to carve that off. Just sand it off. Nice, easy circular motion. So your kit will press flat onto your pen. And just sand that off till you get, I gotta get rid of that right there. All right, so this is our kit. It's a Mesa pen kit. It's my ink cartridge. It's my pen tip, my transmission, and the spring. And there's my ink cap. This is the part I'm gonna press. So we're gonna make it so that the hearts are up. We wanna find a spot for it to go. That heart disappeared, so I think we're gonna put it right there. So put the clip just like that. In my transmission. There's so much glue on my hands. Nothing wants to work. Don't lose your spring. Little wax tip. This one has a little wax tip on the end of it. Take that off. Protects the ball. Don't need it anymore. Spring goes on. Put it on the tip. Transmission. You have to move it around so it seats. It's in there. Screw that on. There you go. You don't want to get it too tight. If you get it too tight, then your customer can't get it off. And then this slides right in here. And we're done. A Valentine's Day heart pin with handmade hearts. It's numbers time. For tools and supplies, we're looking at about $15. For time and materials, I'm going to count my time on this one because I hand carved all those hearts in there. We're looking at about $20. That gives us $35 for all of our tools and supplies, material, everything that we're going to count. If I were going to sell this pen, I would sell it probably for about $70 to $75, considering the fact that I took all the time that I did and hand carved those hearts in there. However, it's for Valentine's Day, so I'm going to give it to Ellie. Aww. She can have as another pen. I think that's pen number 9 now for her, but at least she gets to have it. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed it. And maybe you can try some of your own little crafts on your own pens and just do something different. It doesn't have to be the norm. Enjoy yourself and have fun doing what you're doing. If you have any comments that you'd like to share with us, please put them in the comments down below. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. As always, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and we'll see you on the next one. We love you. We're going to go over to the